Well, we'll have to look back at the playbook and see how we're doing, how we did. So again, I'm Brenda Cardock. I'm the Rochester Public Library Foundation Executive Director. Welcome. Thank you all for attending. We appreciate your support of the library. I'm going to roll a short video and then we'll get on to the entertainment. We have been advised that, you know, if you want to start sipping your Chardonnay, that's the first one. So go ahead, and then I want you to enjoy. I don't want you to have to wait. So here I am going to share this video and we are off to the races.
Ultra really strives to be involved in the community, to show that, you know, we're here, we stand united, and that we really want to make a difference in the community, as does the library. I am an avid reader. Many don't know, but I came from Bosnia, so English is not my first language. So reading was super, super hard for me. So once I got out of ESL, English second language, then I got into Title I, and then that's when I learned how to read. And then I spent almost every week at the library in Winona, just renting out numerous books and reading and just enjoying and just being in a different world. I think reading is just so important in anything that you do in life, science, math. I think it's just so important to grasp reading at a young age, so you, I feel, don't have to struggle through, you know, your years of elementary and middle school, and grasping that at a young age and feeling comfortable to read. It's huge.
So we love to thank our sponsors. Ultra is a platinum sponsor. Cap Trust has also been here this evening. They are a platinum sponsor, and Mayo Clinic is a presenting sponsor. We couldn't do it without the sponsors, and we can't do it with all the patrons that help and support our programs. So without further ado, I'm gonna let our moderator introduce our speakers.
Hello, everyone. I'm Catherine Davis, and it's been my pleasure to be part of the event planning team for Wit, Wisdom, and Wine this year. As I know, as Shelley mentioned in the last one, we were hoping we would be in person, but this is the next best thing, and we still get a chance to be together, to enjoy, to learn, to taste some new things, both the wine and the food variety. And I know that's some of my favorite things to do. And we are so pleased to have Jena and Karl from the People's Food Co-op with us today. And you know, they're very, if you notice in their background, they have a wonderful pith helmet. And one of the things we were talking about is how that represents exploration. And isn't that something that we're doing today, is exploring new frontiers with that? Maybe if we're good, we will maybe get him to try on that pith helmet a little bit later as we're taking our journey through the different regions that the wine is from. Perhaps, I don't know. And encourage you to, if you've got questions about the food or the wine, put them in the chat. We'll be kind of having an interactive time with Karl and Jena as they go through that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and toss it to you.
Okay. All right. Well, hey guys, welcome. Lovely to meet you all. So I'm Jena, and this is Karl.
Hello.
And so we're going to get started with the event tonight. So we're starting tonight with an unoaked Chardonnay, and it gets paired with an herb goat cheese. So we're going to bring up a little slide here, just starting out. There we go. So it's a light yellow with green shades, and on the nose it pronounced aromas of fruit. No, sorry guys. So it's really, light. It's fruity. It's got a medium flavor. It's not overly sweet, but it's not super dry either. It's and really, unlike a lot of Chardonnays, it's unoaked, so you get that clear citrus flavors without a lot of
That's one of the biggest difference with this wine here than your traditional. I mean, when most people think Chardonnay, they think Napa Valley, they think California, they think a rich, buttery, oaky Chardonnay. And this guy is not that. Instead, this guy has a really light color, and it's got notes of vanilla, pineapple. give it a smell. Really strong floral aromas with this guy. And when you give it a taste, even bits of this is gonna sound, but banana and mango. Yeah, that is just absolutely refreshing, and it pairs fantastically with our goat cheese, as a matter of fact.
So, tonight we're having this with the perfect goat cheese, and so this is a type of chev. All right. So it's kind of just a general term for a goat's cheese. So all chefs are goat cheese, but not all goat cheese are chefs. So kind of one of the misconceptions there. So this dip is modeled on kind of a classic force and cheese spread. So it's got oregano, basil, rosemary, and thyme, and it actually features some of the Chardonnay that we're tasting with it. And so chev is really a really versatile cheese, and definitely it's got some tang to it. So I hope you guys enjoy it.
So Carl and Jenna, we've actually had a question about the wine. I know
Please.
that it comes from Argentina. Is there a specific region that it comes from?
There absolutely is a specific region it comes from, and I was almost going to get to that, but let's jump in there. And so it actually comes from the Uco Valley in Tupagado, Mendoza, Argentina. And so where that is in Argentina is it's right about in the absolute middle of the country on the western side, just on the eastern slope of the Andes Mountains. And so it's very high elevation, as a matter of fact. 1,200 meters or 4,000 feet is where is the elevation at which this wine is grown. And so with that, I've got some more.
Different types. What we're using right now is just a fresh chev, and the brand that we're using is called Mont Chev, and which is a local cheese from Wisconsin. So it's just made right over the border, and so this chev could be plain, mixed, fresh herbs like we're doing here. Volcanet is another type, which has a thin gray or blue rind, and then a Boucheron is probably one that you guys might have experienced as well, because it's often sold in kind of a log shape, and you'll find those in cheap markets.
And so what I was going to hop into next was some fun facts about the winery while we enjoy some of our goat cheese and the white here. And if you get ahead of us and feel like you need to dive into one of the other wines, please feel free to. I've got some fun photos here. So this is a picture of a winery here in Mendoza, Argentina. Okay, and some fun facts about the vineyard here. It's 240 hectares, and it is in Tupangado in the Uco Valley of Mendoza, Argentina. And so the cool thing about the Uco Valley, it has absolute ideal wine growing conditions. It's sometimes referred to as the Napa Valley of South America. And due to its location, Domaine Bousquet's vineyards benefit from a very, very cool climate and very, very constant fresh air. And so the cool thing about that climate is they actually get it's a desert, as a matter of fact. And so the thing about this desert is they actually get a very, very small amount of rain. It's 20 centimeters or about 8 inches every year. And you think that's not conducive to growing grapes. But actually what they do is they're actually able to harness the mountain runoff from the Andes and use that, and actually basically they can regulate to the drip how much water that their grapes get in the Uco Valley here. Okay, and so let's get some more photos here. And so this is the actual winemaking facility there, and so they can produce about 4.5 million acres or not 4.5 million gallons of wine at Domaine Bousquet every year, and they do this in part due to a really sandy soil, really excellent drainage, and very, very low concentrations of organic material. because of the elevation and the climate. And this produces a very, very favorable stress in each of the vines. And grapes develop increased levels of sugar and acidity. And these sandy soils help create wines with very, very elegant profiles. Another cool thing about the vines is this vineyard was planted on virgin land by Jena Bousquet, who is a fourth generation family winemaker. They were first planted in 1997. And once these vines reach an optimum ripeness, the grapes are handpicked, as a matter of fact. These grapes, because they're higher elevation, have actually a lower yield. But because of this lower yield, it involves in more robust levels of sugar and a more balanced acidity, which lends itself to a really, really nice, bright tasting wine. And so it's probably time now to move on to our next.
Did you just say bottoms up?
Oh yeah, please, yes.
Bottoms up, guys.
So we're moving on to the rosé, and I know that there was a little R on the container. If you're looking for which one it is, that where the rosé was in your little wine pack. That's what I'm calling my wine pack. I will just say that a couple of comments, a couple of people said, and I have to agree that last pairing, the Chardonnay with the Chèvre, we'll say that's correct pronunciation, was really spectacular. Really a great pairing. Another question, do you happen to know what the mountain range in the background was?
Those are the Andes Mountains.
Wow.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And so those are the Andes Mountains. And another about the pairing, as a matter of fact, even as the goat cheese actually, I think Jen may have not, but included the Chardonnay, as a matter of fact, in the recipe for the dip.
Wow. No wonder it tastes so good. No wonder it paired so well. Yeah, that was really great. And and Shelly just put the link to the winery in the chat. So if you're interested in checking that out later, you can do that. Yeah, I'm ready to move on to the rosé.
But these wines can be purchased at the People's Food Co-op, correct?
Correct.
Well, and so what I think, what I think is interesting about these wines is, yes, you can buy them by the bottle, but as somebody who likes to be prepared for anything that the pandemic will throw at me, you can buy them in boxes. So just saying.
Are those
This is
available,
also
the whole box?
So these wines actually are available in a box, as a matter of fact. And one thing I was going to discuss a little later on was actually how much more sustainable wine in boxes is actually compared to the traditional glass bottles, and that's due to the reduced consumption of glass, but also reduced shipping costs. And the thing that people don't actually like to think about in the wine industry is shipping is actually a very, very large component to the environmental impact of the wine industry. And I mean, your standard case of wine weighs roughly 45 pounds, and to get that from Argentina to America requires a relatively large carbon footprint.
So, hey, Jenna, I missed what you said. You might have to move closer to the mic.
Ooh.
Jenna, I think you have to move closer to Karl.
All right.
All right, well,
So the next thing we're going to do here is it's time for rosé. And so
you get those fresh cherries and orange peel. It's the perfect combination between that white and that red. It's medium bodied, not overly sweet, but it's still got that fruity balance. I like it. And so we're pairing that with a shrimp cocktail. And an interesting thing, you often see shrimp cocktails served like this. You might ask yourself, so why on earth is it called shrimp cocktail, and why do you keep putting it into a cocktail glass? Well, the fact of the matter is, at the time, it was originally an actual cocktail. So people would, and this recipe is actually based off of a San Francisco miner in 1863, who was interviewed in a New York magazine. And it originally began as an oyster cocktail. So this is his description of it. You put half a dozen to a dozen small oysters into a goblet or beer glass with enough of the liquor to cover them. So the liquor is kind of like the oyster juice that comes, once you shuck it. Salt, pepper, ketchup, a dash of Tabasco sauce, half a spoonful of Worcestershire, 2 or 3 spoonfuls of vinegar, and sometimes a pinch of horseradish. So you stir it up with a spoon and drink it down. The oyster cocktail is as much of an institution in San Francisco as a whiskey cocktail is here, which is the state of New York. So just imagine instead of eating your shrimp cocktail or an oyster cocktail, you actually just slugged it down as a drink. So I would imagine it was quite bracing. So one of the issues with seafood at the time, is that oysters could be shipped, whereas shrimp could not be. So as oyster beds began to become more polluted in the 1950s and shrimp's commercial fishing increased, we ended up with the shrimp cocktail. So while modern shrimp cocktails are not really chuggable like their oyster ancestors, they're still served in cocktail glasses today, which is kind of interesting to think about, having a nice glass of oysters.
Absolutely. And rosé is always going to be a fantastic pairing with virtually any seafood and shrimp specifically.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's really great to compare with something spicy. It can be paired with something, a little, more fried foods even. So like it has that perfect balance between being a white and a red, where you can pair it with a wide variety of different.
It's almost fresh rosé season. That's right around the corner. So March, early April is when all the fresh rosés drop and the new vintages. And so get ready for Rosé Day. But one other thing I wanted to discuss with everybody. So one fun thing about this wine is actually all the wine we're drinking is organic, as a matter of fact. And I wanted to talk a little bit about organic wine and what is organic wine and what goes on with it, And so organic wine's got, so the thing is there's different styles of wines. Okay, first you have your organic wines, you got natural wines, your biodynamic wines, your vegan wines. And the thing is that is confusing. Okay, that doesn't even bring in your traditional, normal mass-produced, traditionally grown and made wines. And so some of the differences is organic wines are produced with no chemicals. Okay, no pesticides, no herbicides are used during the farming process, and no sulfites, preservatives, or stabilizers or other additives are added during the winemaking process. An organic wine must be certified to earn the label, which all of the Domaine Bousquet wines we're drinking tonight have the USDA organic label on them. Okay. The next step up is natural wines. The natural wines are generally made with low or zero intervention farming practices, which can include non-irrigation. And so, because like I explained earlier, how there is an absence of rainfall in the Uco Valley where the Domaine Bousquet winery is located, they very much would not qualify as a natural wine because of the irrigation process they have to use. And also with natural wines, there are no additives. But unlike organic wines, natural wines don't have any sort of stringent certification process. And so you as a consumer just need to be aware as to what you're purchasing when a wine itself is labeled as natural. Next up are biodynamic wines, okay? And biodynamic wines are made with very sustainable practices. They're centered on a spiritual and holistic approach to farming and production that utilizes the biodynamic and the lunar calendar. And biodynamic wines have to receive a certification from one of two organizations, either the Demeter International or the Biodivin approval certification process. And lastly is we have vegan wines. And wine is made from grapes, you might say. Aren't all wines vegan? And the truth is, most wines actually are not, as a matter of fact. The wines we are having tonight are vegan, and they are vegan certified. But vegan wines are generally made without animal products, such as egg whites, fish proteins, gelatin, or other types of fining agents. But a thing that's absolutely worth noting is that vegan wines are not always organic. And so that's actually an interesting thing.
would you say that like all, like our vegan wine or I'm sorry, our organic wine sulfite free then?
So, sulfites are another thing that actually.
Carl,
Oh, yes.
louder. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Are
Even a little
all
bit.
organic wine sulfite free?
So, no. So sulfites are a naturally occurring thing in the winemaking process. And the thing is, organic wines, like the one we're drinking, don't have any added sulfites to them, but they do have the sulfites that do occur in the natural vinification process. The sulfites are used by wineries to clean the equipment or to adjust the taste of their batches of wine. But organic wines have no added sulfites, so they're definitely going to have lower sulfite counts in your traditionally made wines. They're also going to contain sulfites, and there is an entire section of wine referred to as sulfite-free wine, and those are wines that have actually had these sulfites removed from them.
So we've also had a question, and you talked about the sulfates. I had a question is, can you tell me about arsenic use in wines, and is it used in organic wines?
I cannot actually say for the United States, but I do know in Argentina that arsenic is not used because of their organic wine certification process. There are no foreign compounds allowed onto the soil or the terroir.
Great. That's good. That's really good. We've had some questions about the cocktail. People are raving about the cocktail sauce,
All right.
as well as people were raving about the goat cheese. We were wondering if they can buy both at the co-op.
You actually certainly can. So I believe this weekend we should probably have some out on the shelf. So those will be available for you to purchase. And it's actually interesting. So that cocktail I described to you is pretty much the basis of the cocktail sauce that I described. So that actual drink, that is the basis for the modern cocktail sauce. It's essentially ketchup, some Worcestershire sauce. It's heavy on the horseradish. And so, I mean, they really just took the oyster out and stuck in shrimp.
Wow. That is a fascinating, I have to say, that is a fascinating history of the shrimp cocktail. I had no idea. And I know one of one of the fellow was like, I would drink the oyster one too.
Yeah, it sounds kind of good.
It does sound kind of good. Yeah. So for my heart health, what would you suggest for, I'm going to probably mispronounce this, but I'm going to give it my best try. Resveratrol wines.
Okay, so you're looking at something in a little higher antioxidant. You know, you're definitely looking at this Malbec that we're drinking next, and that'll have probably the most amount of that resveratrol.
And organic wines are going to always be higher in antioxidants than their traditionally made counterparts.
Resveratrol is very good for all sorts of things, including skin health. I believe I have a skin cream that involves putting it on. We're also drinking it tonight with this Malbec for sure. Awesome. And so that kind of leads us into our next pairing a little bit, because we're going to be drinking that Malbec and having it with the chocolate fudge. So, I mean, Malbec's a really great wine of dark color. You know, it's a really great blackberry with red and black currant. And you get kind of that nice medium tannin profile in there that's kind of nice. I mean, I'm a big, bold wine fan myself, and this one definitely hits a lot of those nice notes while still being really nice and fruity.
And so most of the wines that come from the Bousquet winery are going to be unoaked wines. Both the Chardonnay and the Rosé that we had earlier were wines that contain no oak. But the Malbec we're drinking right now has a minimal oak intervention. I believe these wines spend about 60 days aging in oak barrels compared to the Chardonnay and the Rosé that we had that spend the same amount of fermentation time in stainless steel or concrete fermentation tanks. And so, and the fun thing about this Malbec is, so because of that oakiness, and it's got some very awesome overripe dark fruit flavors, like fig and blackberry are some of them, and it pairs fantastically with the fudge that we have brought for you guys. Okay, and so.
I'm doing some research for this. Fudge isn't necessarily the most exciting topic to discuss. I mean, it's pretty ubiquitous. You see it in touristy towns, you know, across the country. You can buy fudge just about anywhere. So, I mean, it was really, became popular in the 1880s, so just a little bit past when shrimp cocktail became it being inexpensive, unrefined, you know, you don't need expensive equipment to do it, and so it's very popular. And one interesting anecdote that I found was that Mammy Eisenhower, so the wife's wife Eisenhower, you know, presidents back then, much like today, were often interviewed about what kind of, you know, foods they served their husband and what kind of things they serve in their home. And whether it was the, you know, the first lady or one of their staffers, you know, they would respond. And Mrs. Eisenhower shared a fudge recipe that was more or less a riff on the classic $1 Million Fudge. But it became so popular that it became known as Mammy Eisenhower's Fudge or simply Mammy's Fudge. And so it became so synonymous with Miss Eisenhower that it includes in her estate and in her kind of information about her in the presidential archives is involved that fudge recipe. So sometimes you'll find recipes for things called Mammy's Fudge, and it's because of Mammy Eisenhower.
Awesome. And so, I mean, the wine and the chocolate, red wine and chocolate are always a fantastic pairing.
Oh, you can't go wrong with chocolate.
And that kind of brings us to the end of our evening here. And so we've got, we want to leave some time in case anybody had any questions or anything like that. We very much want to,
open it up for questions. You know, would like to know more about anything? Love to hear.
Somebody commented that this might be bad for their diet, but I don't think so. I mean, chocolate is good for you, right? And so is red wine. So
Toxins earlier, and those are definitely found in this fudge and in the wine. So I mean, it's a great way to end your meal.
Someone just asked the question is if they can purchase a fudge at the co-op, and yes, they can.
You certainly can. Yeah, so it's definitely made from scratch in our own bakery.
So we've got a question. Is there a certain time amount that you should let your wine breathe and room
Judy,
temperature?
awesome. Yes, that was an awesome question I saw from Judy. And what Judy asked, is there a certain time to let wine breathe, have it room temperature cold? And so, I mean, the traditional aspect is reds are served at room temperature, whites are served chilled. But in modern society, we've been drinking our red wines too warm and our white wines too cold. And so a really great rule to go by is if you're about to drink a bottle of red wine, actually put it in the refrigerator for roughly 10 minutes before you're about to drink it, because you want it slightly less than room temperature, because when the adage about drinking wine at room temperature came about, we kept our homes quite a bit cooler, as a matter of fact. And so just popping a red wine in the fridge for 10 to 15 minutes will bring it down 5 to 7 degrees, and that will actually be a much better drinking wine than one served at the traditional 72 to 73 degree, room temperature. And whereas white wines, we generally drink them straight out of the ice or out of the ice box and drink them chilled, which in today's refrigerators is 36 to 38 degrees or something like that. And instead, you should take those white wines and the rosé wines out roughly 15 to 20 minutes. Raise 5 to 10 degrees in temperature, and that should make them actually much more palatable. Yes.
A lot of people are really commenting on, and people who don't normally like the Malbec type of wine are really digging this. Digging this one.
So the Malbec is, first off, the Malbec is the traditional grape of Argentina. So it was first grown in France, but the Argentinians essentially stole it. And much like how Chardonnay is synonymous with Napa Valley, the Malbec is the synonymous grape to Argentina. And this particular wine that we're drinking, the Malbec from Domaine Bousquet actually received 91 points from Wine Spectator. It was actually named on their list of the 100 best wines for this vintage, which I believe is 2019, as a matter of fact. And so, so this is, I mean, and the Malbec is this particular wine we're having, it would be their flagship wine, and so that makes sense why people enjoy it so much.
Right. Yeah. So a couple other questions is all of these wines are from the same winery, Domaine.
They're all from the same winery, correct?
Yep. Awesome. Awesome. And then there was a question too about the crackers you included in the box. Oh, we can't hear
No,
you.
no, they're the Back to Earth
Oh,
brand.
better.
The Back to Earth brand, and the crackers as well are available at the cooperative, and they are a multi-grain toasted wheat cracker. Yes.
Ah, and all of these are available in both box and bottle, correct?
Correct. Yes, all the wines
All the
are,
wines?
and the bottle format of the wines, they're $11.99 a bottle, and in the box format they are actually, it's a very big value. That is actually $19.99 a box, and it is probably the best deal in the entire cooperative.
Yeah, that's great.
And if you do get a bottle, it's got the screw cap, so you don't have to do the cork, right?
Yes, they are screw cap wines, and the thing is, screw caps have been a bit maligned over the years. And the thing is, technology has come along so far that unless you're talking a $100+ bottle of wine, a screw cap is not going to truly affect anything like that. And the cork is very much a big deal when you're cellaring the wines. But for wines like the Domaine Bousquet wines that we're having today, those wines are meant to be drank the day that you purchase them. And so no need for cellaring. Enjoy them. They're wines to have with life.
So the one that I bought yesterday, I probably need to get that going.
Yeah, probably soon. This is actually the wine that we use in the kitchens at the co-op as well. So anytime a recipe calls for wine or something like that, we're using the boxed version of this. So it's really great for cooking as well as for tasting. And I think that's the advice given to most chefs if you want to cook with something.
Okay, and so I see a question we have here from Audrey. And so she asked, what was the cheese? She missed the beginning. Audrey, it was
No, it's the
Jenna, move closer to the center, and yeah, I'm so.
no, it's okay.
Just elbow him out of the way.
Yeah, get out of here, Carl. So yeah, it's actually the Montchev brand of goat cheese. So that's locally made in Wisconsin.
with some herbs that Jena
Well, with
added.
some herbs, I added some herbs to it. So it's
And again, there's also the Domaine Bousquet Chardonnay, the herb goat cheese as well.
So when you were thinking like the Malbec with the chocolate was delish. I mean, everything that was paired with was delish. If you were, let's just kind of go with the Malbec, what else might you pair with that?
you could eat a steak with Malbec. I mean, it has enough of that, like, you know, bold wine experience where you could definitely have it with a big bold meal, or you could definitely have it with like a tomato-based pasta sauce, or, you know, even grilled vegetables or grilled chicken. You know, it still has enough fruity jam taste to it where you could pair it with a lot of different.
One thing it would go actually very, very well with, this is gonna sound really weird.
Oh yeah, for
It
sure.
would be a fantastic to some carnitas or an asada steak taco. It would be a fabulous pairing. Whereas the white and the rosé would go great with a chicken or shrimp fish taco, as a matter of fact.
They all pair.
It all pairs. Yeah. Well, and you were talking with the rosé that the rosé typically pairs really well with some of the spicier or some.
Oh yeah, definitely. You get those notes with like a white wine or something like that, but that rosé has, I think, enough of that like kind of balance that comes from more of its red qualities to hold up to some of those spicy foods while still being clear and crisp enough to like let you have all of those flavors.
So tomorrow night we will go. I'm sorry, Carl. Go ahead.
Yes, so Thai foods, Asian foods, like you said, anything spicy. And someone in the chat mentioned they need to find a taco truck, and I just want to throw a shout out to the Mi Puebla taco truck at the corner of 7th Street and Broadway. And I firmly believe that it is
I
the
love
finest
that.
taco truck in the city. Tell Carlos that Carl sent you.
Awesome. The Carl and Carlos connection right there. So would the Malbec go nicely with the pasta? I know you've seen the recipe for tomorrow night, for Saturday.
It would be a fantastic pairing with Shari's one pot pasta. And actually, the rosé would actually go as well too. I think the red would probably be a better pairing, but for people who aren't into large bodied, yeah, the rosé could have been a nice pairing with that as well.
Well, fortunately, I have that bottle on hand and it's primed to be open, like you've said. And well, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions? It's so quiet.
Yeah, oh no.
It's all right. Well, still, I mean, hopefully we've answered everyone's questions, and hopefully everyone learned a lot and got to just have a pleasant evening. I know with the way the pandemic's going on, there is people are tired of Zoom things like that, but we do appreciate you coming out
Yeah.
and supporting the library, and we're glad to hear. I mean, the Rochester Public Library is a fantastic selection or a fantastic place.
I think that was the first thing I did when I moved to Rochester.
Did you see in the chat, somebody asked what other wines Domaine Bousquet makes?
So some other fun ones they make. Another grape that is endemic or not, that is native to Argentina. It's called Torrontes. That is a very light, very lively white that generally a lot of times has a bit of almost effervescence to it. Like it's not a sparkling wine, but because of the way the wine ferments, there is just a little bit of effervescence to it. But the wine that actually the Domaine Bousquet winery is very, very much known for, it's called their Gaia line. GAIA is, I believe, how it's spelled, and that is their flagship stuff, and that is fantastic wine, but it's in the $75 to $200 price range, and it's kind of hard to get my bosses to pay for serving 80 people $200 bottles of wine. So
I'll throw them under the bus.
Well, maybe next year we can have you in the library to do a tasting for people.
I would absolutely love that. We could pair them with novels.
Hey, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Brilliant.
That's a great idea.
But so, hey, Brenda, you are burying the lead. I see somebody who agrees with me that we need to take the bookmobile.
Yeah, that is a
Argentina.
popular theme. It started last year. Argentina is a little bit of a long way, but we could, I don't know how many people, maybe we'd have to do a roof rack. Is Kim Edson on? I mean, we're funding an awning this year. So maybe we could get a roof rack with some seats.
Kim is coming off a video to
I think that'd be hard to get past the city's risk management team.
Well, we could get out of town and then load everybody up there.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but
You
hey,
just
Karl
keep
and Jenna,
asking, just keep asking.
we will every year. But Karl and Jenna, I want you to know that I'm riding shotgun, but I'll make sure that there's room for you guys on there. So
We appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
And tow the taco truck.
Until the time.
Yeah, absolutely. They
But
might have
Jen, I
somebody
want to
get
go back
tacos.
to your comment that one of the first things you did when you moved to Rochester was to get a library card.
Yeah, no, I mean, it solely cements you into the community. It lets you, really feel connected to a place. And honestly, it's been a big part of my time here in Rochester.
And Jenna was actually, she most recently took her first library card out of her. She got a new wallet and took her. old
Oh, I've been
library
holding
card.
on to my social card from when I grew up in Minnesota for like 3 decades
That
now. So.
classic khaki and brown library card. That a lot of
that
people
sounds
see that.
well loved. That sounds well loved. Well, I love this. Anne Marie has a comment that Karl, whenever she has a wine question, she goes to you. And then Erlene is asking the question that I had. What is the name of the taco truck, Karl, that you like?
It is called Mi Puebla.
And it opens at 4 p.m.
It opens at 4 p.m. And if you search it online, it actually comes up as Linos Taqueria, but it is at the corner of Broadway and 7th Street North in the parking lot of the Great Harvest Bread Company.
Yes, that's my kids love that one. That's fantastic.
Well, great. This has been just a fantastic, I think as many of the people in the comments have said, this has just been a fantastic journey. My palate, my tummy is so happy, And I don't know about you all, but I just expanded my my wines that I need to try. I forget about Argentinian wines, and I'm a tendency to be more of a white lover than a red lover. And like many people are saying, this Malbec, to die for, to die for. I think I might be a convert. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. All of this that we've been talking about is available at the People's Food Co-op. This and much more. So invite you to go down and yes, and to go down and they have a great, I love I love the grocery part. I also love the liquor part as well. I was down looking yesterday at some really great things there. So thank you so much for your time. Know that, of course, we're here because we're raising, I feel like I'm doing a telethon right now. I'm just going to say that. So right now I'm auditioning for next year's Eagles Cancer Telethon, in case anybody from that is there. But seriously, again, we're here raising funds. We so appreciate you being here with us, even though it's virtual. Being together as we celebrate, we learn new things, all of this. So we thank you for that. If you want to donate again, we're going to pop up the links in case you want to make some additional donations, find out what the foundation and the library is doing. Coming up yet tonight, I am really excited about this as well. This has been just such a fantastic evening of speakers already. But like Shelley mentioned in the last one, I have a little bit of a celebrity, but it's kind of my guilty pleasure to think about what celebrities are doing. So please make sure you come back at 8 to hear Gary Devon. He's going to be giving us an insider's peek behind the curtains of the entertainment industry. And remember, tomorrow too, we're starting at 1 o'clock. With a tea and cookie tasting with one of our local bakers, Chef Iman, and we're so excited to be able to present her to you and some of the things that we have going on with that. Followed by Leilani Rashida is going to be talking about a book she wrote about her dad, about George Gibbs, and many other things. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and unless there's not any other questions, we're going to go ahead and close down and say thank you again so much, and we'll see you back here at 8. So goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much.
So much fun. So many wonderful people. Sorry
We're
for
so
the
lucky. People's Food Co-op was so amazing to work with. You guys really came in and helped us out to get this off the ground. So appreciate it so much.
Thank you for asking us, and we
It
were
was our absolute.
yeah we're so happy to help.
Great.
So do you have a link for the next session if you want to join, if you want to watch